Welcome back to the Kenemy Mind Podcast. Last time we spoke with Larry Vinette, two-time drug-free world bodybuilding champion, world-class personal trainer, and fitness influencer. In case you missed it, you can check out part 1 of the episode by clicking on the link in the description below. Now, let's get back into it. What is your perspective on cardio from a health perspective and a performance perspective?
It all depends on what your goal is and what your recuperative abilities are. So we always look at sleep. Sleep is so underrated. It's very important. So let's say you're a trust fund kid, don't have to work, you got no stress, you're sleeping 8 hours. You can train freaking 10 times a week if you want. Like, you're going to be able to recuperate from that if everything else is fine, like testosterone levels are good and all that. But if your sleep is kind of not that optimal, then you have to prioritize. And the weight training is always going to be the most important thing. As you get older, you have to fight off sarcopenia, which is the muscle loss just because of age. So it's not like people stay status quo if they do nothing, right? You're on the downhill ride, right? And you want to try and stop that because your two best longevity markers are muscle mass and muscle strength. Then it's VO2 max. So what I tell people is before the age of 40, do all the cardio you want if you're able to recuperate from that. But after 40, switch to prioritizing weight training. And if you have enough energy and recuperative abilities to add extra cardio, do it, because excessive cardio oxidizes the brain at a faster rate. So what that means is you're aging your brain faster if you do excessive cardio. And the way Charles used to explain it, he told us that all the power athletes at the Olympics always die much older than the endurance athletes. Mm-hmm. So people think Iron Man or all these, marathons, they're great events, right? They're very intense. And then we're kind of conditioned to think, these guys are going to live forever because they're so healthy, which is not really the case. Like, a lot of heart attacks, a lot of dementia and Alzheimer's in the people that do excessive cardio. And if you take the body fat of a sprinter and body fat of a marathon runner, the sprinter has more muscle mass. Maybe he runs for like 20, 30 seconds, that's it. Or sometimes 10, depending on the event. But he'll have less body fat than the marathon runner, but the marathon runner burnt off all his muscle mass, so he looks thinner, but he's actually a little bit fatter than. So it's good if you're able to recuperate from it. Zone 2 cardio is not that intense, so that's not really going to hamper your recuperative abilities. So that's a good thing to do because it has a lot of benefits. But let's say you're going to do jogging, let's say. Jogging, you're not going to burn, like, it's not a fat burning type of zone. So you're going to burn glycogen from the muscles and you're going to burn muscle tissue. So not the best of ideas. So if you want to run a marathon, then good, go run. You need to do that if you want to perform good. But if your goal is to live a really long time, I would go do weights, but in a particular way that you can get your cardio in at the same time. So in my weight training programs, I'll have them do agonist antagonist muscles together. So opposing muscles, instead of doing, let's say, a set of bench press and twirl your thumbs for 2 minutes while you recuperate. Well, if you contract the antagonistic muscle, the opposite muscle, while you're resting for your bench press, there's a couple of things that happens. Number one, you're getting more volume in the same time of work. But there's also a neurological advantage that you're going to get less muscle fatigue in the muscle that you're working if you contracted the opposite muscle in between sets. So you do one set of bench press, instead of taking 2 minutes before doing another set of bench press, do a set of bench press, wait 45 seconds, do a set of rowing, wait 45 seconds, go back to your bench press. So by doing that, your rest periods are very short. So your heart rate is going to go up. So at the end of the workout, like, if you do it properly, like if you follow the tempo I prescribe and you actually follow the rest periods as they're prescribed on the program, and you feel like you can do cardio after, you probably did not train the way you were supposed to. Yeah. So you can get two birds with one stone type of thing, right? So I'd rather do that because it's less time consuming. So in 1 hour, you're getting your weight training done and you're getting a good cardiovascular workout at the same time. You don't have to stick around for another half hour to do treadmill or Stairmaster or another time of the day, right? Another way to get some cardio in is, let's say you're going to eat 3 meals a day, right? After each meal, go to a 10-minute walk. It helps with insulin sensitivity. It helps with a bunch of things, but you're going to get 30 minutes of cardio without kind of realizing it, right? Because it's not going to be one big stretch of 30 minutes. You eat, then take a walk with your wife, whatever it may be, 10 minutes, then go back to doing what you're doing. And you're getting a lot of the benefits without having to schedule a half hour to do your cardio each and every day.
Solid advice. In terms of cardio, if you're doing interval training, there's all kinds of different protocols like Tabata training. At the dojo, we'll usually do like 3-minute rounds hard on the bag with 1 minute of kind of active recovery in between. I know there have been studies that have been done. I remember Charles Poliquin used to have a protocol that he used with the FBI or the CIA, or I can't remember who it was, maybe some special forces.
Yeah, special forces.
Generally speaking, if you want to optimize your cardio in the least amount of time, in your experience, what's the best protocol in terms of sets, reps, percentage of maximal heart rate?
Well, if you're going to do interval training kind of cardio thing, let's say you're going to do sprints, right? The energy systems vary depending on the length of the activity. So the way you normally do high intensity interval training is you do whatever activity that's really, really intense, like all out, for about 30 seconds. And then you take just enough time to recuperate so that you're able to do another 30-second sprint and try to get 15 minutes of work in total. So let's say you're going to do the assault bike, which is really intense. You would do a 3-minute warm-up as a warm-up, then go all out like your life depends on it. Like a bear is running after you, you're running for your life, all out for 30 seconds. And let's say you're not really used to it, then you would take about 4 minutes at a slower pace so you can recuperate. And then you go again for 30 seconds and you do that for 15 minutes. At the end of the 15 minutes, if you felt that you could keep going, then you got to shorten that 4 minute at moderate speed to maybe 3 minutes. So that at the end of 15 minutes, you got to be dead, all right? And that's how you gauge it. 30-second sprints, all out. And not a lot of people do it properly because it has to be an all-out effort.
They don't know how to go all out, so they won't.
They don't go all out. Like people say, I'll do it on a treadmill. No, a treadmill, you got to punch the numbers to make the thing go. Don't do that. And I don't like cardio on an electrical machine because it lowers insulin sensitivity. So you want to either do sprints or assault bike where it's just not plugged into anything, or the rower, whatever it may be, right? But all out effort, like till you're about to throw up, and then just enough recuperation so that you can go again for another 30 seconds and make that last for 15 minutes.
When you say make that last, are you talking about the 30-second intervals of 15 minutes or 15 minutes of overall workout?
Overall workout, 30-second sprint, let's say 3-minute moderate speed, 30-second sprint, 3-minute for 15 minutes total.
So you're really doing 3 of those or 4 of those?
Yep.
That's it?
Well, depending on how long you're moderate, let's say your cardio is very good, you do 30-second sprints with only 1 minute at moderate speed, then you're doing more cycles, right?
So about 15 minutes total. And
that's the 15 models all out.
What's good about that is you could do it quickly. You're not spending all your time. So that's an interesting protocol. I'll have to try it that way. I've done Tabata. I do my thing, 3 minutes on, 1 minute off. It'll be fun to do 30 seconds full balls to the wall and then, a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes off.
The cardio has to be either zone 2, so very kind of not light, but moderately light, where you're able to engage in a conversation without having to catch your breath, or all out effort.
Okay.
The middle there, jogging, is not ideal unless you do an activity that will require that you do running. Let's say you want to do an Ironman, then you won't have no choice but to do that. But again, if you're doing for longevity, not your best choice.
This is counterintuitive to most people, right?
Exactly.
So ask you some quick questions. For most of the people who want a decent amount of a relatively low body fat, body composition. So for men, 10% or less, or let's say 10, 15, let's say. For women, 16 to 23%, which is pretty lean for a female. What is the ratio of macros that you'll see for most people most of the time? And what I mean by that is some people do super well on carbs. Other people, they look at a carb and they get fat. Other people, they just look at a steak and it makes their stomach turn because they have low acid in their stomach or whatever. If you had to take the population as a whole and say how much fat, how much carbs, how much protein for most people most of the time to be healthy, what do you think?
If the goal is to get lean, figure out how good your insulin sensitivity is. So that will dictate what type of nutritional strategy would be best. If you have poor insulin sensitivity, go on a keto diet or carnivore elimination diet. If you're able to eat carbs, then keep the carbs in your diet, but make sure you're in a caloric deficit, and that'll work. But, it all depends on how much time you have and a bunch of factors. Sometimes you can do like a 2 steps forward, 1 step back kind of approach, right? Where you go a period of time where you're going to increase the carbohydrates, you're going to increase the calories to try and gain a little bit of muscle to speed up your metabolism. And then you do a caloric deficit to get rid of the fat you accumulated with the muscle. So, because it's easy to maintain muscle as long as you eat enough protein and you keep training, right? People think, if I stop training, or I'm going to lose all my muscle. You don't lose muscle that easily. Like back in the day when you had to hunt for your food, if the hunting was bad for a couple of days and you shriveled down to nothing, you would die. So it's a lot harder to lose muscle. But let's say you decide to be vegan, where your quality of your protein is not that great, and it might be a little bit too low and all that, then there's more chance of that. But if you keep training and you keep eating your protein, then easy to maintain muscle, but it's just the fat accumulation. So what I do is, let's say someone shows up and a guy is 20% body fat. Cool. Let's say I get him down to 10% body fat. Things like, okay, now I want to gain a little bit of muscle, because now at 10% body fat, you see the muscles underneath the fat, so you get a better idea of what he looks like. And then let's say we figure out, okay, well, your shoulders are really fucking weak. Let's work on your shoulders. Then we would do caloric surplus, hypertrophy program, make sure your sleep's good, hormone levels are good. Then, aim to gain that muscle mass, but his body fat's going to go up a little bit, right? And you set a set point. Let's say, okay, you're at 10% body fat. As soon as you reach, let's say 15%, we're going to bring you back down, right? So you're at 20, bring down to 10, increase calories, make you gain more muscle mass. Fat's going to accumulate a little bit, but once you reach 15, let's drop you back down to 10, dropping back down to 10, but you got a couple of pounds of muscle mass more. Then you're one notch better than you were before. So it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. That's why you can progress without, getting up to 30% body fat. You spent a whole year in the caloric surplus of eating everything in sight, right?
I like it. So more rapid fire. Let's have fun with this. It's great. So fish oils. In order to determine the amount of fish oil you probably should be consuming, it's a function of your body fat percentage, right?
Yeah.
So what protocol do you recommend for people and fish oils? Omega-3s, essentially, is what I'm thinking here.
Yeah. Charles was big on 1 to 1.5 grams of fish oil per percentage of body fat.
Seems like a lot.
It is a lot. And when he started with that, people were calling him crazy. But there was actually a study that was done that they showed good fat loss at 60 grams of fish oil per day. So there's one study that kind of backed what he was saying. And as you get leaner, you use less fish oil. And then once you've been on fish oil for a while, then you can cut the fish oil and increase the conjugated glutamate acid, the CLA kind of fats. So that would be the approach, because the fish oil kind of inhibit the genes that help you accumulate fat, and it kickstart the genes that help you burn fat. And back in the day when we had to hunt, when the hunting was bad, there was always fish. That's why when we were nomads, we used to follow the herds. We would always stay close to the lakes so that if the hunting was bad, there was always fish. So our ancestors were used to eating between 200 and 400 grams of omega-3s per week. Now it's good if someone eats 2 grams, right? So for a very long period of time in our existence, we ate a lot more omega-3s than we do now.
Very, very interesting. And let's segue into other stuff. I'm going to hit you up with some of the main supplements that most of us probably try to take. So creatine monohydrate, which we all know is supposed to be good for you until the study comes out next week and tells us that it causes cancer. But we've been on it for 30 years.
It's been the most studied supplement out there. So I doubt they're going to come up with something negative. They keep bringing positive stuff. Like we used to take only 5 grams. That was good for muscle, the better pump. And it restores ATP levels. So you're able to, it increases repetitive strength. So you're able to do more reps with less fatigue. And now they're bumping it up to 15 to 20 grams because they find it benefits the brain a lot at that dosage. You got to go up slowly or else you're going to, you don't trust the fart type of thing on that
exactly.
protocol.
Oh, yeah. So just for the listeners, for the longest time, since I can remember, they said, 5 grams per day for the average male or female is probably a good amount because it'll saturate your musculature with creatine. And now there's more studies that have come out that said, well, preferentially your body will use, or your muscles will suck up creatine. But then once they're saturated, your brain will start using the creatine for metabolic activity in your brain.
Yeah.
So then they were talking about 10 grams a day instead of 5. So I guess probably depends on, the size of your body, like anything else. But for a general rule for people today, what would you say is the correct dosage for most people, most of the time, male or female, of creatine per day?
Between 5 and 15 grams.
Okay. Let's talk about vitamin D. People have been talking about vitamin D3 for 30 years. It's all we speak about. I find it very interesting because I supplement with vitamin D. Sometimes I get my blood done and they go, your vitamin D is not that high, which makes me think that maybe just taking it orally, it's not absorbed into your body so well. You can obviously get injections of vitamin D where it kind of goes directly into your bloodstream. My question to you is, when you make a recommendation on how much vitamin D a person should have, you're going to say, okay, go get your blood tested.
Yep.
Right? So what's the ideal range for your blood levels of vitamin D in your experience?
I don't remember the numbers by heart, but the last seminar I did with Eric Serrano, Dr. Eric Serrano, like the people used to recommend about 5,000 IUs per day.
Per day.
And he told us, you're just tickling your body with 5,000. 10,000 is going to be much better. And he has some of his patients in certain cases where he gives them 600,000 IUs of vitamin D per day. So that's a lot. It takes, most people are deficient in vitamin D. So when you do blood work, most of the time it will be very low. So I start with 10,000 IUs for at least 3 months, then get your blood work done and check where you are. Some people absorb it faster than others. The form of vitamin D also can change. Like is it in a phospholipid because it's fat soluble protein vitamin. So, eat it with a fatty meal, or some of those capsules come with the fat in it. So that's a better idea. But vitamin D you can get from the sun. But if you put sunscreen on, you're going to not absorb the vitamin D from the sun. And you can't OD with the sun. So if you're, let's say, a lifeguard and you never put sunscreen on, chances are you don't need to supplement with vitamin D because you're getting it from the sun. But wintertime, we're Canadian, we're not going to get the sun. Minimum 10,000 IUs for months on end, then get tested.
Makes a lot of sense. What is your current thought on, so if you had to give your stack of your top 6 supplements, which is a tough one, what are the ones that come to mind for most people most of the time?
Number one would be something that helps you assimilate. So digestive enzymes would betaine hydrochloride to increase the stomach acid, because nobody's got, well, unless you're coached by me or people that know what they're doing, most people are lacking hydrochloric content in their stomach. So it's important to make the most out of the food. And by increasing hydrochloric content in your stomach, you're also going to stimulate all the other supplements you're taking at the same time. So that would be my number one. Then vitamin D for sure. A multivitamin is kind of like your insurance policy, that you're getting all the vitamins, minerals, and cofactors for the well-functioning of your system. Magnesium is the most deficient supplement out there. Zinc, fish oil. So those would be my go-to. Coenzyme Q10, especially as you get older. Those are like the mainstay. Then apart from that, it's case by case. Like, what does your body need? So we get blood work, we do testing, and then we figure out. And also depends on what kind of budget, how many pills you're able to swallow per day, right? So yeah, because you could easily take 200 fucking pills per day. Crazy. But you know, it all depends on your budget and how, you know, extreme you are.
So thank you for that. That makes a lot of sense. In terms of, you said something before that I thought was kind of interesting. You were talking about, I think essentially you were talking about the bioprint model, the basically testing your body fat distribution is a window into your endocrinology.
Yeah.
Right. And you and I, we've both done body fat testing courses, and you've done 1,000 times you've body fat tested people. My question to you is, when you are personal training a client and you're doing your initial assessment with them, if you don't measure it, you can't get better. So I know that one of the first things you'll do, and I used to do this as well when I was trainer, is I'd measure a person's body fat, establish a baseline. Body fat doesn't tell you everything, but how and where your body fat is distributed on your body can give you indications about hormonally what's happening in a person.
Yep.
And once you can control a person's hormones, you can control their performance and body composition and mood and all these other things. I have 2 questions for you. 1, can you give a quick overview of what sites on the body tend to give you information about your endocrinology? And 2, this protocol that you're talking about, how backed by science is it? Is there evidence or studies that show that there is that correlation the way we think that it correlates?
Yeah. What we're talking about is the first generation was biosignature, then it became bioprint, then it became metabolic analytics, invented by Charles Poliquin and backed by Vanderbilt University. So there's a study on that. Charles at one point was training military guys on base, where they can control the training and the food and the sleep, because you know it's hard to do these random trials on everyday people, so you don't know their lifestyle, you don't know what they're going to do during the day. But the military guys, you know, you can say, okay, you guys get up at that time, you go to bed at that time, you eat this, you train like that. They're very supervised. And he was able to see, with all the years of experience he's got, that depending on where you store your body fat, that could be related to a hormone. So we know that insulin sensitivity can be dictated by your love handles, the body fat you store in love handles, and also in your subscapularis skin fold where your shoulder blade is. So shoulder blade is your insulin sensitivity since the day you were born. So it'll tell you if you're able to eat carbs or not. And the love handles are your environmental carbs. So that means, were you eating too many carbs recently, like the last week, month, and so on. So, and it's all related to your tricep, which is your mother site, and the tricep is your androgen site. So the thickness of the fat you have on your tricep gives us a good indication of your androgen levels or your testosterone level. So if you're a man and you have less than 5 millimeters in the skin fold and tricep, we know that you got good testosterone production. But if you're above 5 millimeters, chances are your testosterone is kind of on the weak side. So, and then you get tested and then you kind of confirm it with a blood test. The calf and the knee are your growth hormone sites. So that will give you a good indication of your recuperation and your sleep. And, I'll test guys and I'll pinch their calf and knee. And then I'll tell you don't sleep that great. Wait, I don't know. How could you tell? Like they think I'm a medium or something. And, lo and behold, they tell you, I sleep shit. Like I sleep 5 hours and then I get up 3 times during the night to go pee or whatever it may be. Then you get other sites. What else do we have? Chicken chin are mostly just fat, right? It's not related to any hormone.
Indication of overall fat.
Yeah, overall fat. And that would be the places where you would drop fat the quickest usually. So growth hormones, insulin sensitivity, recuperation, and testosterone. Those are the main ones. The mid-axis was correlated to the thyroid function, but I don't really see that. So we're
sort of
brushing that. Yeah,
pushing that away.
But it's good to know because right away, instead of doing the trial and error thing of, okay, we'll try for a couple of months or a couple of weeks a keto diet and take out the carbs, we're able to know right within like 15 minutes if you're able to eat carbs. If you're able to eat carbs, it would be a dumb idea for me to take them away. Unless we want to do the reset diet with a carnivore to figure out which carbs are compatible. But let's say we're rushed for time, we don't have time to do that. Then if you're able to eat carbs and I take them out, I'm not doing you any favors. And you're probably going to get better results if you keep the carbs in your diet because your body can use them, right? They're your preferred form of fuel. So it takes the guessing out of the way and we save months, sometimes even years of guessing.
And with all the thousands of clients that you've trained, you feel, just in your own experience, you feel that that protocol is an accurate reflection of most people most of the time?
Yep.
Very cool. There's so many things that I want to ask you, and we don't have that much time. Let's talk a little bit about blood work. So probably about 15, 20 years ago, you had encouraged me to get my blood work done. And it wasn't just going to your doctor and looking at 3-4 different things in your blood. You basically said to me, here, check these 85 things.
Yeah.
And then you go see your doctor and your doctor goes, what do you need this for? You're healthy. I go, am I? And then so you go get tested.
Yep.
And you look at your blood and you look at your hormones. And you look at, there's 1,000 different things that you look at. And I have blood work from 20 years ago when I was 6% body fat. And I have it because in my mind, and like when I'm older, I have many different years of blood work and the evolution of it. So a doctor might be able to look at it and go, okay, I see. He's always tended to be high on this and low on that. This is his natural state that when he's healthy. And then if something wildly differs down the line, I might be like, okay, there's something here.
Yeah.
What are the main things that you recommend people get tested from a blood perspective, every year, let's say?
Mm-hmm. Well, there are about 26 things that I like to get tested. For guys, number one is testosterone, total testosterone, and free testosterone. Because you can have a pretty decent amount of total testosterone, but your free testosterone, which is actually what counts, could be low because of your sex hormone binding globulins are high. So it's binding your testosterone, so it's not freely available in your system. So testosterone, free testosterone, progesterone, DHEA sulfate, there's a whole bunch of stuff. Like there's 26 in all. Because if you're not testing, you're guessing, right? So it all depends on the amount of precision that you want. And it's good to have those markers because you have something to compare later on. Because if you do 3 months or 6 months of training and then you get it tested, I'm pretty good here. Yeah, but were you in the beginning, right? So if you don't know, you don't know. You need a baseline. So I recommend at least every 3 months get tested because it gives you the confirmation that, okay, what am I doing? Is it actually working? Is it showing up positively in my blood work? Because most guys, their testosterone level is crap for a bunch of factors, right? Somebody's highly stressed, his testosterone is going to be low all the time because stress and cortisol is not a bad thing. It's just something you need when you need it, right? If If a bear is running after you and you have no cortisol, you're going to get eaten, right? So cortisol is an energy mobilizer, but when a bear is running after you, procreation is not a priority. So your testosterone levels drop because you manufacture testosterone with the same raw material than you manufacture cortisol, and you have a limited amount of that. So if your cortisol spikes up, your testosterone is going to be lowered and vice versa. That's why people go on vacation. Like I was screwing my wife 5 times a day. Well, you don't have the stress of everyday life, of your work and all that. So you had more available testosterone, and that's why. It's not because you're on vacation or your wife was sexier. It's just that the stress level was not as high as when you're at work, let's say. And people that are highly stressed are going to have a hard time digesting their food because, again, bears running after you, digesting your food is not a priority. So digestive system shuts down, hormonal production shuts down because the priority is run away from the bear, right?
Chronic stress eats away at your androgens.
Exactly. So people are chronically stressed, have a problem. So the idea is to have stress, but you have to be able to come back to baseline, right? Because if you're chronically stressed, then you're running into a lot of problems. You can do adaptogen herbs that help your body adapt to a stressful situation. But the thing is, people get adapted to those adaptogens.
Yeah.
So I like to maybe pick 3 out of them. And then 1 week you do one, then you switch to another one for 1 week. So you do phosphatidylserine for 1 week, then you do rhodiola rosea for 1 week, then go back to ashwagandha and then go cycle those. So your body never gets used to the same adaptogen. So it's just a question of, giving your body the material it needs to kind of deal with the situation you're in.
Totally makes sense. Is there a good place, maybe a private clinic that you can recommend in the Montreal area to get your blood work done? You can certainly go through your GP. You're going to have to negotiate with your GP to get them to test all these things. And then you're going to have to wait a while. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, if you go to your general practitioner, what I tell people is just laying on thick and lie the hell out of them. Just say, I haven't slept with my wife in months. It's causing marital problems. I'm probably going to get a divorce. Like, you got to lay on thick so that you give them a reason to
check all these
boxes, because they're going to ask you, well, you're fine. You don't need it, right? So not a lot of doctors will work with you. They're going to try and dissuade you from getting all these tests done. Why? I don't know. It's still a mystery to me. I'm guessing because if you're too healthy, you're not going to go back to see him, and he's not going to make more money, right?
Or it's just money. I think if you're a doctor and you prescribe too many tests, which clogs up the medical system and costs money, the government's going to push back and say, hey, why are you ordering all these tests? And you might say, well, I don't want to wait until my client gets sick to then have to treat him and it costs 10 times more. I'd like to know if the freight train is about to hit the wall. I'd like to kind of know in advance. This is a thing I never really understood. Well, I understand it. It's all about money.
Yeah.
But to me, if a person has a heart attack at 50, that heart attack started at 40. It's just you couldn't...
Even earlier.
Or earlier. You just couldn't see it. There was stuff going on inside that shouldn't be happening, and it just hadn't reached a tipping point. And then when the person gets the stroke, gets the heart attack, that's the tipping point. I always thought, as a former personal trainer and nutrition guy, I was like, why are we not testing for these 20 things right now? Then if we see something looks a little fishy, let's deal with it now before it manifests into an actual condition where you get
Yeah.
And I guess it's just expensive and it takes a lot of time, and it's not part of the culture.
We have a different system than, let's say, Japan, where the doctors get paid if you don't get sick. Right. So that makes more sense. The thing is, there's a difference between normal and optimal.
Right.
Doctors bring you normal. They won't bring you optimal, right? Let's say testosterone level should be between 9 and 24 and you're at 10. Oh, you're good. Yeah, but you're on the low side. Like, you're on the brink of having the testosterone level of a beetle. So it's not really optimal. So a good doctor, depending on where you go, will bring you up to optimal, but he's got to be open-minded. If you do the tests on your own, like all these 26 things could cost you anywhere from $2,500 to $5,000 to get tested.
It's crazy,
right? It is crazy, but if you got the money for it, then great. If not, you can go in the States and you pay a monthly fee, and then they do that. I'm affiliated with a lab in the States where all my US clients, it's included in their package. I don't pay for their drugs if they need it, but the testing is included when they sign up with me. So they'll know all their markers. And then if ever they need anything, then they fix it with the lab, and then, they'll prescribe your testosterone or whatever it may be, even the peptides, right?
Peptides, yeah.
And they'll recommend what you need. And then depending on the money you have, you can pick and choose whatever you want to do. But first thing to check is testosterone, because if your testosterone levels are too low, even if you have the best training, best diet, the hormonal environment is just not going to be there for you to get those results. And you're going to feel like crap, right?
So let's talk about testosterone for a minute. We always talk about testosterone in men, but women require testosterone as well. Mm-hmm. And when their testosterone gets low, they have negative side effects. So how would you compare male to female testosterone? And as I understand it, doctors don't really prescribe testosterone to women because they're not too sure what those should be, could be, and what the effects are going to be.
Yeah. For women, it's much harder because they're much more hormonal, and they have perimenopause, menopause, and all that. So when they're not producing any hormones, it's a good thing to replace those hormones. So they got to get tested. For guys, half the guys over 40 would benefit from getting a little bit of testosterone. So it all depends on where you are. If you don't get tested, you won't know. But testosterone is very important. I don't train women anymore because I prefer to train guys. So I would have to search on exactly what they would need and what the numbers are, because I've been not training women for a while. I'm not focused on that. Yeah. But yeah, if you don't get tested, you won't know. So testosterone is the first thing. And then you got to go through the whole cascade, hormonal cascade. Okay, your testosterone level is low. Well, is it because of DHEA sulfate? Is it, where is it? Is it because of the brain, or is it because of the testes?
Yeah.
Right. So let's say you have luteinizing hormones that are too low. Well, you can use a supplement, let's say like Tribulus terrestri, which increases LH, and then that's going to work. It's going to bump it up. But if your testosterone level is low and it's not because you have a low LH, then you're going to take that supplement. It's not going to do anything.
No. So
I used this Tribulus and it worked great. I did, and it didn't do anything. Well, your problem wasn't LH. It might have been
something else,
right? Somewhere along the hormonal cascade.
That makes a lot of sense. What are your thoughts these days on peptides? So we've spoken about peptides in the past, and there's a bunch of terms we throw around here, and maybe I just want to clarify a couple of things. First of all, let's go back a bit. We talk about carbohydrates being good for you or not good for you. When we say that, what we mean is person A, who has good insulin sensitivity, could consume carbohydrates and then readily use them as energy.
Correct.
But another individual can consume carbohydrates, doesn't metabolize them super well, what I mean by that is because their insulin sensitivity is not so great, they end up storing those carbs as fat.
Yep.
And those carbs are not readily usable by that individual for energy or to create movement or thinking, right? Or what your other metabolic processes. So just to be clear, anyone can eat carbs, but when we say do well on carbs, we mean you have energy, you can use that energy, and it doesn't accumulate on your body for no reason. Is this what you mean when you say that?
Exactly.
Okay. Other terms. So let's talk a little bit about the peptides. So there are a bunch of peptides that have been created or popularized, I should say, since the 1990s. Mm-hmm. And essentially they're chains of amino acids put together, different molecules that when you ingest them, they send signals to certain genes to turn them on or turn other ones off to perhaps increase your lean body tissue, metabolize fat so you get leaner, or create protein synthesis so you put on muscle, or change the pigment of your skin. There's stuff you can take and it'll give you a tan, but it's just from something you took.
Yep.
What's happening with peptides in the fitness world and in the health world from your vantage point? What are you seeing? What's popular?
They're more and more popular, but again, like it's a complement to everything else you're doing correctly. It's not a replacement. And people tend to use those as replacements, right? I'll use peptides and I can eat a pizza once in a while. Like, it doesn't really work that way. I've been experimenting with peptides for 10, 15 years now. They're good, but there's always in vitro, we see a difference, but in real world scenarios, are we actually going to see visible change in your physique and how well you feel? It's debatable, right? So it's a gray area type of thing. They're not overly, like, I don't know any doctors here that prescribe them, that they don't want to touch it. And still, in the States, a little bit more, depending on, it's a functional doctor, more open-minded. Some do awesome work. The ones I like are BPC 157, TB 500, because they're regenerative peptides. So most people have some sort of injury somewhere, right? Shoulders, whatever it may be. And when you have lagging injuries that don't want to heal, those peptides help the healing process greatly. BPC 157 also has the benefit to help the gut heal faster. So if you got gut issues, or if you have tendonitis that doesn't want to go away, then those peptides will help the speed. Like, you'll probably heal twice as fast with those peptides. So those are really good. You see a very noticeable effect. Things that you actually see a difference, melanotan too, where you get a tan, like that works because you get a tan, you visually see I'm much darker, and then you even go in the sun. There's also a part of the peptide in melanotan too that increases libido. And now they've isolated that. So if you want the libido effect without the tan, you can get that peptide also. Then there are a lot of GH secretagogues where they send a signal to your pituitary gland to secrete more of your own growth hormones. Instead of taking synthetic growth hormone from the pharmacy or black market, you're just sending the signal to produce more of your own. So there's no shutdown of your pituitary gland. There's no risk of that. So they help you get leaner, but anything that increases growth hormone output will also give you some level of water retention. So yeah, you're getting leaner, but you're a little puffier. So look-wise, it's kind of the same look if you're holding water, if you're fat, right? So, but those are kind of interesting, but I've never seen someone get super ripped just because he started using peptides, right? It'll help, but it's always a cost to benefit type of thing. Like, if you're spending X amount of dollars per month for a quarter of a pound fat loss per, like, is it really worth it? Probably right? Not. Can you get the same kind of results if you ate a little bit less calories or train a little bit harder?
Yeah.
So if your sleep is on point, if your nutrition's on point, if your training is on point, then adding these things in can make a slight difference. And the leaner you are, the more of a difference you're going to see. But yeah, there's peptides for almost everything now, like hair growth, mitochondrial function. There's a whole bunch. But again, is it noticeable? Like,
probably depends.
It depends. I've never seen someone drastically change his physique or his energy output just because he started using peptides. Placebo effect is the strongest effect out there. So maybe just the fact, well, I'm injecting peptides, so I'm going to get leaner. And the fact that you're using those, you might be a little bit stricter on your diet because you know you're using something. So if the end result gives you more results because you're using that just because you're going to be more diligent on everything else, then great, it'll work, right?
Yep.
But is it actually that, or the fact that you're more diligent on whatever else you're doing? I think it's more that.
Probably that.
So I'm not really big on peptides, but I'm really big on the BPC 157, TB500 for the injuries.
Are there any sources that you can get in Canada that we know are not, or is it still kind of gray market? You don't know exactly what they're putting in there.
Yeah, it's gray market, so we can't.
We don't know.
Like, I'm giving you that answer here, but if you come in my office, I'll give you a different answer.
Understood. Fair enough. I've had experience with doctors in the US where you'll go, you pay $300, 2 days later or a day later, you have all your blood results, and you can go there and they can recommend peptides.
Yep.
They can even recommend certain drugs. So a lot of people mess around with, what do you call it? I have a mind blank. Enclomiphene citrate.
Mm-hmm.
So a typical dose for an average guy would be like 25 milligrams a day. Mm-hmm. When you take that, you could get it made at a compounding pharmacy, and it'll increase your testosterone by X number of points, and you'll feel a little bit better. And then if you get off it, it seems that your body just goes back down to its baseline.
Yeah.
Which is kind of neat. But that drug doesn't even exist in Canada.
No.
You can only get it from the States.
Yep.
Prescribed by a doctor, but available nonetheless. I see a lot of people mess around with CJC 1295 and ipamorelin to increase their levels of
growth hormone
of GH. I've been told by people that it's a pain in the neck to have to inject yourself every night.
Well, the thing is, it'll raise your growth hormone for a few hours. So you can do multiple shots per day, but you got to take it on an empty stomach. So let's say you're the type of guy who eats 4 times a day. Well, you got to take it between meals because growth hormone and insulin cannot be present in the blood at the same time. So if you eat a carbohydrate-rich meal and you shot your peptide, you're wasting your money.
Yeah.
So multiple shots a day has got to stay in the fridge, right? It's an inconvenient. It's inconvenient.
Kind of hurts.
A little bit. Some people are scared of needles like crazy. True. So, that right there is a big challenge for them.
Yeah.
Some peptides come in oral form, but it's the injectable form is there's less waste of it. But yeah, they're kind of a pain in the ass. To tell you the truth.
Literally and figuratively. Let's talk about body fat percentage. So for men and women to have the lowest morbidity, what are the ideal ranges of body fat for the average woman or man in your experience?
Yeah, I like to see my guys at between 10-12% body fat on the method that I use. Now, understand that different methods will give you different readings, so it's just a reference point. But the way I pinch the fat with the equation I use, 10 to 12 is where guys are starting to see their abs, right? They don't see all the rows of their abs. You got to be sub 10 to do that. For women, it's about 16% body fat. So first goal is to get around that level and then look at yourself in the mirror and then judge if you want to keep going lower or if you want to stay there. Lower than 10%, hormonal production starts to get a beating, right? Yeah. You're going to be hungrier for most time. It depends on your metabolism. Like I stay around 8-10% body fat year round, but I'm not a guy who has a super huge appetite, right? So for me, it's not that hard. But let's say you have a huge appetite and you would eat like a seafood diet, everything you see, you would eat, then, it's going to be a struggle to get below 10. So that's probably not a good idea. But whatever percentage body fat, it depends on how long you stayed at that particular level of body fat. Let's say you've been 20% body fat your whole life. You're able to get down to 10% body fat. Well, 20% is your default mode, right? So at 10%, your body will want to get back to 20%. But if you're able to stay lean at 10% for between 18 months to 2 years, then 10% becomes your new default.
It's a set point.
It's a set point. So from there on, if you're able to stay lean for that amount of time, whether you eat a little bit more, a little bit less, you're pretty much going to stabilize at 10-12% body fat. So it's a question of getting down there and then staying down there for a long enough time so that your body thinks, okay, this is normal for me to stay here. You won't shoot back up yet.
Very interesting. So I always find it interesting, two things. I listen to a lot of, obviously, fitness podcasts, and I read up on this kind of stuff because we like these kinds of things, and we're interested in anti-aging and whatnot. I find it really, really funny how one guy will talk about something, and then mysteriously the next day I see another fitness influencer guy talking about the same thing that the first guy spoke about, and then it goes through cycles. I find it interesting. So anytime that I start talking about something fitness related, I make sure that I'm not in sync with all these other guys who are copying each other. I legitimately look at what's of interest to me right here, right now, and I try to learn about that thing for whatever reasons. Keeping it really basic, let's talk about protein. Little difference here. How much protein does the average person who works out 3-4 times a week require, in your opinion?
Average about 1 gram of protein per ideal body weight. So let's say you're 200 pounds, but you want to be 200. Let's say you're 250 pounds, but you want to be 200 pounds. You aim at 200 grams of protein. With the system I use when I take your people's body fat, I know the body fat level, but I also know the lean mass. So I base it off the lean mass. So I give them 1 gram of protein per pound of lean muscle mass.
So I was always taught that that's what it should be. But when I listen to other podcasters, they say, a gram per pound of body weight, not a gram per pound of lean body weight. Mm-hmm. What's your thought on that? Is that...
Well, let's say you're 400 pounds.
Yeah.
And you want to get leaner. You're going to eat 400 grams of protein?
No.
So it's more the 1 gram per pound of desired body weight.
Got it.
So if you're 400 pounds, but you want to be 200, eat 200 grams of protein.
Makes sense. Talk about water.
Mm-hmm. Everybody's dehydrated.
Everyone's dehydrated all the time, right?
Yeah.
So right here, I just have some electrolytes in water, and I actually use the soda stream, and I put a bit of bubble in there, and it's like a soft drink.
Yep.
But it's not.
Yep.
So a couple of things I've observed. Back in the day when I used to hardcore diet, I would not have carbs forever. And I get super, super lean, but I get kind of weak. But then I learned that if you increase your salt, you don't get as weak.
Yep.
Which I guess makes sense because nervous impulses require sodium and potassium and other things to happen for there to be an electrical potential between two.
It's all electricity, man.
It's all electricity. So I noticed that, and it took me like a long time to figure out that you need to increase your salt. Back in the day, we also thought that salt was not great because it increases your blood pressure and it's kind of dangerous. I never salted my food, ever, for years. Mm-hmm. But in the last couple of years, I salt my food a little bit more. And on the condition that I'm drinking enough water, I find I don't get too bloated a little bit. But I definitely have higher energy.
Yep.
What do you tell people when it comes to salt? Because there's mixed messages. Should I have salt? Should I not have salt? What do I do?
Yeah, there was one time in history where salt was worth its weight in gold, right? So it's very important. That was a mistake we did for years, cutting out the salt because we saw salt makes you hold water. Well, when you're sodium desensitized, let's say you never put salt, you never eat any salty foods, and then you start eating salty foods, you're going to hold water for about 5 days. Then it's going to go away, right? The body's going to establish homeostasis. I eat a ton of salt. I might eat between 3 and 5 grams of salt per day. I put 1 scoop of electrolytes per every liter of water I drink. And my blood pressure, like normal blood pressure is 180, 120 over 80. I'm like 110 over 70, like all the time.
So it's not affecting you?
It's not affecting me at all. And I'm 55 and my blood pressure is like pristine.
So that's a blood pressure thing, but if you have too much salt, can it affect other systems of the body in a negative way that you're aware of?
You would have to eat a ton of salt and you have to have a health predisposition.
Right.
So if you're good to go, you're normal, increase the salt. Because people that usually go on a ketogenic diet or carnivore diet and they don't salt, they feel very weak. So a lot of people go, I can't do keto because I have no energy. Well, that's because you're lacking salt in your diet. So increase the salt. Baja Gold salt is the one I go with. They found recently that the Himalayan sea salt has some heavy metals in it.
So about that.
Yeah. Be aware that every time there's something good out there, it gets bought by a company and they make it kind of bad.
Yeah.
Right. So salt is super important. You can, like, the meal before the training, let's say you're going to eat a meal before your workout, increase the salt in that meal and it's going to increase your pump. And you can add beet powder.
Right.
To increase nitric oxide.
Yep.
So it's a vasodilator. So even more blood, more oxygen, more nutrients going to the muscle. So you're feeding your muscles more. But be aware that if you like to use stimulants before the workout, stimulants are a vasoconstrictor.
Yes.
So one of the, there's always phases of supplements that are like in vogue, and all the pre-workout formulas are meant to stimulate your nervous system. So they'll have some form of caffeine in it, and they're going to have arginine, ornithine, citrulline to increase the vasodilation. But one does the opposite than the other. The caffeine is going to win over, and you're going to think you're going to get a better pump because of the placebo effect, but you would have gotten the same pump if you just use
the caffeine.
Exactly. So you're spending money on a supplement that the only thing in it that's going to work is the caffeine, and it's going to inhibit the pump effect. So if you're in a mass gaining phase where you want to feed the muscle all the nutrients it needs, then go with a pre-workout formula that doesn't have any stimulants. Like ATP Labs have Enos, which is awesome, but it's got no stimulant, and it works great because I did a back workout.
What's in Enos?
Citrulline and a bunch of other stuff, B6 and stuff. I did a back workout once using Enos, and I had to cut it short because I thought if I was going to do another set, my lats were going to explode. Like I was walking around the gym like this, crazy. But if you're in a fat burning phase where you want to get leaner, then don't use anything that increases the pump and go more with the caffeine to get, well, number one, if you're very low calories, a caloric deficit, you're not going to have the energy. So the caffeine will give you like alternate boost of energy. You're going to be able to get the workouts in. So it all depends on what phase, what your goal is, but never mix the two. So yeah, most of the guys, or especially the younger guys that want to be coached by me, they're like, okay, what do you take? Oh, I take this C4 pre-workout, whatever it may be. I like
caffeine.
Yeah, just throw it out the garbage, give it to your worst enemy type of thing. Don't use that. You're going to save money on that. There's other things that are more important for you to buy as far as supplements than a pre-workout formula, because you get caffeine pills for like close to nothing, right? Go to pharmacy, get some wake ups. You're good to go, right? Same thing.
So you talked about nitrous oxide, and then you talked about citrulline. So I don't know when citrulline became popular. I feel like it was the 90s. I could be wrong. I seem to remember it coming into formulas. So just for the people who are listening, nitrous oxide is super, super important in muscular contractions, right? Mm-hmm. And when your NO2 levels are high, you become very vascular. So you can see veins. In your pre-workout, would you put citrulline in that? And I guess what I'm trying to say is, in terms of pre-workout, what do you consume and when do you consume it?
Yeah, good question. Know that if you eat just prior to the workout, you're not going to get a better pump, because when you eat, 2/3 of your blood goes to your stomach to help digestion. So, train your biceps, like, I'm getting no pump, right? So eat, wait at least an hour, better yet, an hour and a half before you get the workout. And then 30, 20 minutes before the workout, have, some salt, some beet juice.
Yep.
You can take some amino acids if you want. If you're in a mass gaining phase, then halfway through the workout, I would have you sip on some powdered carbohydrates. ATP have a good one called pentacarb, which are 5 different types of carbs with different glycemic indexes. I would put either 1 scoop of whey isolate or some essential amino acids and some creatine And while you're getting the workout in, you get the pump effect, the osmosis effect. You're getting all those nutrients within 3 minutes within the muscles. It's going to help you. I like to do it halfway through the workouts. If you start in the beginning, then you might crash because it's going to spike your blood sugar because it's very fast acting carbs. Then you'll come back down. So you don't want to crash midway through the workout. So the first half of the workout, just water. And then second half of the workout, start sipping on that thing. And then once you're done the workout, your insulin sensitivity is always better right after the workout.
Yeah.
So if you can have a high carb meal, have it there. Have something that's, high glycemic carbohydrates with very low fat protein source.
Right.
So you wouldn't have a ribeye after the workout.
Right.
You would have chicken breast or white fish with a ton of rice or potatoes or sweet potatoes.
That's really good recommendation. By the way, I said I meant nitrous oxide before, not NO2, which is a different compound. Super interesting. So as a rule, you don't want to consume too much food before because you don't want all the blood to go to your stomach. You want it to be going to your limbs and your brain.
Exactly.
Which makes a whole lot of sense. What advice, so we kind of take for granted that we've been in the fitness lifestyle for a long time. But when you go outside and you look at the general population, you realize that the vast majority of people don't really work out. And I think when we were younger, I know when I was a kid, I had this secret weapon that I did, sort of developed when I was 16, 17, 18. And that was the gym, and that was getting strong.
Yeah.
I went from being like a weak little kid, just average genetics, to all of a sudden in school, they were calling me Conan because I was so strong for my size. And I kind of noticed that it was a bit of a secret weapon in two ways. When you lift weights and you lift heavy and you train hard, you're constantly confronted with pain.
Yep.
You're constantly confronted with, this is difficult. I know it's hard, but I'm going to push through it and do it anyway. And the more of that I do, the leaner and stronger I get. And then the better I feel, because I'm sort of learning in my brain that things that are hard but worthwhile are worth doing. And then that translates into your career.
Yep.
So you're a salesperson, let's say. And what's one of the hardest things for a salesperson to do? Cold calls.
Yep.
Either on the phone or in person. But you start realizing, when I do cold calls, and if I get good at it, it's uncomfortable. But if I do it, then I get more business and I get better results. When I eat clean, sleep correctly, train hard, give myself enough recuperation, I can actually see over a period of months my body changing, my energy level goes up, and I just feel my level of self-efficacy goes up, you could say. So what is your commentary on what you see in the general population? And then how do we get more people to get involved in fitness so that they can have a better life and, our medical system maybe gets a break?
Yeah, good question. Like, the new generation want instant gratification on everything they do. One of the reasons is we have a phone, right? Give you an example. When I was a kid, we were lucky if you found your dad's, Playboy somewhere. You wanted porn, you had to search for it, right? It wasn't instantly on your phone. Now I open up my phone, I can get all the perverted stuff I want, right? So delayed gratification is something that the new generation are not used to, right? They want it right away. So if they don't see results right away, they kind of deviate from that. They go to something else. We don't have the same role models as we did before. I grew up watching Conan the Barbarian, Hulk Hogan, not Hulk Hogan, but the Hulk on television was the thing that played every week, right? Lou Ferrigno.
Totally.
So we grew up with that, right? Van Damme, Chuck Norris, who sadly passed away, rest in peace. Stallone. Those were the role models that we have. Now, what role models do the new generation have, right? They have, the vampire guy is there? It's not the same. And the whole masculinity thing, kind of like we're labeled as toxic now if we're So how can I be politically correct and not get canceled here? It's just not the same, right? We don't have the same role models. What we glorified as being strong is being associated with something negative.
Right.
Now, so you have to be able to defend yourself, provide, and be a formidable force in nature, right? So he who has a sword and keeps a cheat will inherit the earth, right? So it's even in the Bible. So you have to be able to defend yourself, and you know better than anybody because you do martial arts, right? So in martial arts, you learn to be lethal, but you learn to control it.
That's right.
So yeah, I mean, the new generation to me is pathetic. I'm saddened that it's like that.
Yeah.
So I like to see the younger guys in the gym, right? So that's pretty cool. But if you spend your time playing video games, like how many hours did you waste of not being productive in anything?
Yeah.
Where you could have learned a skill, you could have helped someone else, right? Instead of you got good at Fortnite, or is that a video game? I don't know. I hear that word sometimes.
Yeah, it's like a popular with someone. It's popular. We don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So what is that going to give you, right?
It is true. You know, you brought up a very interesting point. I think your physiology and your psychology, they're all kind of interrelated. And I guess when we were growing up, we were taught to be physically and mentally strong men pushing through difficult things, because everything in life that's worthwhile is difficult. I always believe that the degree to which you're going to be, I guess, successful in your life is the degree to which you're willing to do stuff that sucks, but do it anyway. So if you have a hard life, or if you push through hard things, you'll have an easy life. If you always stick to the easy way of doing stuff, then you're going to have a hard life. It's a bit counterintuitive, but it totally makes sense. And
what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right?
pretty much.
It comes down to this, and it's a good analogy of what weight training is, right? You're hurting yourself, causing micro tears in your muscle fibers when you train, but if you give enough time to recuperate, you become stronger because of it.
Yeah.
And, you know, one thing I realized a few years ago is that most people, the highly successful people, all had a huge level of trauma when they were younger. And that is the reason why
That's right.
they're so successful now. But if you had an easy life, like get a billionaire, like what billionaire whose kid turns out good?
It's hard.
It's hard, right? Because
It's a tough one.
they had it easy. They never struggled, right? So,
You know, it's hard times makes strong people. Strong people make good times. Good times make weak people.
just
And
like
weak people make bad times. And, you know, I found this is a whole other sort of topic, but I remember during the pandemic, which was sort of a difficult time for most of us because we couldn't travel freely, we couldn't do this and that. And I just remember certain individuals, hearing them complaining, "Oh my God, my life is so bad, and I feel so isolated and all this." Yes, but meanwhile, the government was giving you $2,000 a month to just stay home and do nothing. Then I think back to like my grandparents' time or my great-grandparents' time, where they were going through the war, Second World War, and even the First World War. They had to ration food. People were being drafted to go fight overseas and might not come back. I would never wish hardship on anyone, but I feel like the last generation and maybe the one before, we've just had it too easy and people become really soft.
exactly.
And another thing I noticed as well is, like, I shouldn't have to feel bad about the fact that I'm a guy. Meaning, I like guy stuff.
Yeah.
First of all, I like feeding my brain. I'm a nerd. I like to understand science and I like to understand technology. I like to train my body hard. I like fighting. I like martial arts. I like firearms. I like motorcycles. I like guy stuff.
Yep.
What's wrong with that?
There's nothing wrong with that.
Right? And as a man, I think men should appreciate beautiful women. Right? I mean, if you're looking at a beautiful woman and your body's telling you, wow, that's beautiful, I don't need to make excuses about that. I'm wired for that.
Yep.
I find that when you depart too far away from what your nature is, when you denature stuff, nothing good happens. You know, like if you're a man and you have a family like you do, it's your job to protect your daughters. It's a job for you to provide for your family. It doesn't take away from your wife or girlfriend's
Jeremy, you're such a
ambitions.
misogynist.
Right? Exactly. Right? And I've always felt that most women, there are exceptions to everything, most women appreciate a man who's able to provide, who's able to protect. I mean, our country was built by strong women and men, not weak ones. And part of being a strong male is to have male energy. That energy to push through difficulty, that energy to want to grow and become more. Look, man, we could talk for a really, really, really long time. What message would you have for people who are interested in changing their lifestyle, getting healthier, feeling better, getting strong? How can people contact you? What do you recommend?
There are different ways you can go about it, right? A lot of people are going online and just training people online, and they will rely on photos, like send me a photo and then I'll give you whatever you need. That's one way to do it. Like it's a level 1 type of thing. I do kind of a hybrid type of thing now where I train you online, but I start off with actually, going to your location. I do all the testing and I gather all the data that I need so that I have something concrete to go by. And then every 3 months, I fly back to your location and I retest, recalibrate, and reassess. That's a very precise way where you're not wasting time on that trial and error thing. Because relying on pictures can give you some sort of an idea, but if I don't know about your insulin sensitivity, I don't know about your recuperation abilities and all that, it's kind of a guessing, right? So I do the online stuff like all the other guys, probably a bit better than what these guys do, but the hybrid model is great because one of the reasons why I was reluctant to go online for many years is because I couldn't do all this testing that I do in person. And then I thought, well, why not offer that and actually try? Some people come to my place where I have a gym at home and I can train them there. But like in a couple of weeks, I have a guy that I'm testing in Connecticut. So I'm flying to New York, driving 45 minutes to Connecticut, spending the whole day with him, do muscle testing, apply kinesiology, metabolic analytics, structural balance. So we know that if you're able to, let's say, bench press that amount of weight, you should be able to do that amount of weight on all the other exercises. And when your strength ratios make sense, your risk of injuries go down because you get injured when something is out of whack, right? Let's say you only train your biceps, you never train your triceps, well, you're going to have shoulder and elbow problem because this is strong, the other side is weak. But we know that your bench press is your mother lift, right? That's equal to 100%. Then what you're able to do on dips should be 117% of what you should be doing on the bench press. Incline bench press should be 91% of what you're able to do on a flat. And when we test these out and the ratios make sense, then you can push the envelope, you can push harder without breaking down. So the analogy I like to use is, those dragster races where they do quarter-mile races. When they push the pedal to the metal, you push hard in the gym and you're well balanced, you're going to go in a straight line, you're going to win the race. But if you're not well balanced, you're going to start zigzagging, you're going to crash, hit the wall, you're not going to win the race, right? So when you're very well balanced, then your risk of injuries go down and you're going to progress that much better because you were able to find out exactly which muscles are inhibited and which ones are overactivated. So when we balance everything out, your risk of injuries go down drastically. Like you're going to get hurt if you, stumble down the stairs and you break a neck, but it's not going to be during your workouts that you're going to get injured. So things like tendonitis, this, that, knee pain, lower back pain, we're able to fix that, right? But if you don't test, you can't assess properly. So that's the model that I use, is that there's in-person evaluation, data gathering. so that I know exactly what to put precisely in your program instead of just looking at you going, I think you need more shoulders. Hell, 3 shoulder exercises. That's very surface level, and that's what most guys do, right? So it all depends on, the level of precision that you want. But when you're over 40, you don't have time to do that trial and error. When you're 20, I'll waste 3 months doing that technique. Oh, that didn't work. Oh, no problem. I wasted 3 months. When you're 50s, like 3 months is like, it kind of sucks going wrong. It's like you're at the bottom of a mountain. Let's say you want to climb Mount Everest. You should be starting right, but you go left. So you're putting in the effort, but if you're going to put the effort, might as well put the effort where it will produce results, right? And when you climb Mount Everest, you don't just show up at the bottom of the mountain with your GPS going, I think we got to go this way. No, you hire one of those Nepalese guys, those Sherpas, right? And you follow the guide. His job is to get you up the mountain the safest way possible, the fastest way possible, and the less bumpy road. And when you go up Mount Everest, there are different levels, right? You go up to base camp, you acclimatize, and every level is a different set of challenges. Oh, here we got crevasses, here we got this, here we got that. It's the same thing with training, right? It's not a linear path. There are going to be things happening in your life, right? Larry, I'm going on vacation. I want to have the same equipment. Okay, great. Then we can work it out so that when you get to the hotel, you take a video or the picture of whatever equipment you have, and I'll make you a program so that you don't have to figure it out yourself. So the job of me as a coach is to take that stress off your shoulders of knowing what to do, how to do it, and this and that, so that you can stress on way other things in your life, but knowing that whatever you do is going to produce results because it's been, intelligently programmed, then you have more confidence in what you're doing, right? And you're going to get better results at the same time. So it all depends on how much time you have to waste. You want to get in shape quickly, or you want to be in shape when you're 75, right? So that's the level of precision I bring, which I don't know anybody else that brings that level of precision, because all the testing that we do, like not a lot of guys even know what that is. I'm actually teaching next weekend at Pro Gym, the 28th and 29th of March, all those testings. So we're able to bring to level up the new generation of coaches. And this is all the stuff that we learned from Charles, that sadly Charles is not there anymore. He passed away. So we're bringing that level of precision in the new generation of coaches so that they can, one, charge more and get better results, right? So it's all a question of knowing exactly what to do and just not surface level like most of the guys do. So they can reach me, Larry Vinette, on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Very easy to just Google my name. You'll get pages and pages of stuff I've done. So I'm easily reachable. But yeah, it's bringing a level of precision that it just isn't there anymore. And most of the guys don't even know these tests exist. Because a lot of especially like the applied kinesiology, like you'll get these tests done once you've had an injury, then you go see a rehab specialist. And then in the rehab phase, he'll have you do these exercises. But before it becomes an injury, you can predict that, okay, that muscle is not firing, it's inhibited. Let's wake it up. Because, if all the muscles are doing their job, you're going to progress that much because you're only as strong as your weakest link, right? So figure out what the weak link is, work on that, and then you're able to level up and keep progressing.
Love it. Larry Vinette, thank you for coming today.
My pleasure, Jeremy.
Always a pleasure, man. Appreciate it. We'll see you on the flip side.
Cool.
If you enjoyed this episode, smash that like button and subscribe. You can also check us out on all social media and podcast platforms. If there's a topic that you'd like covered, mention it in the comments below. Thanks for tuning in to the Kenemy Mind Podcast.